Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and today we've got some pretty juicy story details to dive into. Now I am a bit late with this, I do apologize. We're going to be covering some of the revelations dished out with the Bravo season target release in 2 Bridges that launched last week. Though I suppose with 4 weeks in between each target, what's the rush, right? I hope all of you have had a chance to get through the content so that we can fully dive into spoilers. If you haven't yet, here's your warning. We're going to be covering everything that got released with the 2 Bridges target, so be warned. With that said, however, we've got some very interesting bites that we got to mull over, including a potential redemption arc for Aaron Keener, this new apparent Stalker figure, some speculation on who that might be, as well as further reinforcement about a certain future plotline that we're likely to see involving everyone's favorite comatose patient. Should be a lot of fun. I'm excited to get into it, and if you want to stay up to date with all the latest on the Division 2 and everything Division, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you're dialed in. But without further ado, let's go. So, as outlined in the intro there, we've got 3 main points to cover here, all teased and conveyed at various phases of this latest investigation. Let's start with Aaron Keener. Now, we knew heading into this season from the devs' words that we'd be hearing a lot more about Aaron Keener, specifically what some of his motivations might have been during the events of the Warlords of New York expansion, given that things were left rather ambiguous at the time. Now, so far, we haven't gotten quite that deep yet, but what we have gotten involving Keener are various comms detailing 2 distinct points in time. One pre-apocalypse, where he primarily interacts with Mackenzie Merritt at a benefit being hosted in Brooklyn, and one post-apocalypse where he's seen engaging with the other rogues from Warlords. That secondary and more recent timeline is what I want to primarily focus on here, because for this target we got a very interesting comm. Let me just play it here outright and then we'll discuss afterwards.
You ready?
I think so.
It's just a short boat trip, and you'll be on safer shores.
And I can really leave anytime I want to?
You're not a prisoner, and I'm not your warden.
They're wrong about you, you know?
People often see what they want to see.
I think I'd like to stick around for a while, if that's okay.
More than okay. You're welcome to stay as long as you want. Kajika, get the boat ready. We're leaving in 10.
Alright, so definitely some interesting things to go over here. When we first listened to this on stream, there were messages in the chat immediately saying, oh, Keener redemption time? And that's mainly what I want to touch on here. What I think this comm is indicative of is that throughout this season, we're going to see more and more moments and thoughts from Keener that deviate from this immensely sinister, endlessly scheming persona that he's garnered ever since the Division 1. But I think an important distinction to make is that one good deed does not redeem someone. Regardless of however many random civilians he might save on a whim, it doesn't excuse nor purge the mass murder he's committed, nor any other crime or atrocity. My rough prediction right now is that by the end of the season, we will in fact learn that Keener's motivations in Woney likely align pretty closely with our own of the present day. I do not believe that the Eclipse missile was randomly targeted at Manhattan. I think in some way we're going to learn that it was meant to cripple or eliminate Natalia, McManus, the Black Tusk, Homeland, something in that realm. But again, even if that is true, and even though we are seeing Keener's side of the story finally in some more personal moments, I do not personally believe that excuses someone from the other horrible actions they've committed. Doesn't mean I still don't think Keener is an awesome villain, I certainly do, but that's kind of my take on the whole deal. The next thing to analyze is Kelso's note. The pattern that we're seemingly seeing is that once per target region, we're going to be finding a handwritten note left for us by Kelso, indicating that we're on the right path, and she previously said that the paper trail is intended to be immune from scrutiny from unwanted parties. Now, this target's note introduced an intriguing element that I wasn't really expecting, but it has sparked a lot of curiosity within the community. It reads, I think someone is following me. It's probably her. I swear she has more lives than a cat, but soon they're going to run out. Cassandra was right. There is more here, and the Hunters and the Black Tusk, well, they may have the tech, but we can take it away from them. We just need the key. Let's talk about the first part there to begin with. Who is this person that is allegedly stalking Kelso? The 2 clues we of course get is that A, it is supposedly a female, and B, this person has some kind of established history or backstory that Kelso is aware of, at least with her mentioning them having 9 lives. Now again, tons of speculation has gone around the community so far about who this might be. Before we get into any specific predictions, there is one overall theory that I do have, and that's that whoever this mystery figure is, I'd say it's very likely that this was the same untraceable person seen in the season's opening cutscene. If you don't recall or know what I'm talking about, I'll play it on screen here and freeze frame the moment. We see Kelso's return to Haven. She speaks to Rhodes and Benitez. But then in the background here, you can see someone walking by who Isaac reads as unknown. Could that be a red herring? Sure, but I have a feeling that they specifically added that detail in and are now teasing about this alleged stalker figure, because this is a story beat and plotline that's going to be built up and culminate in a reveal later on in the season. Now because of this, it creates an interesting dynamic. Could this figure really be someone we know? Because if so, and they are this mystery person in the CCTV video, how are they walking around Haven without being recognized? I do not know. That's why I think the most likely option here is that it is a brand new character that we haven't met before, whose backstory will explain why Kelso references them having 9 lives. That said, that hasn't stopped the community from spinning up some wild theories. The most popular one that I've seen is people thinking it's Faye Lau. Now I will admit, Faye's character and backstory does fit surprisingly well here. She and Kelso have a history. Faye is known for brushing up against death, especially if she were to be alive after the events of White Oak in Season 4. And she has a direct and important connection to this overall story with the Black Tusk and the Hunters. That said, with how adamant the devs were that Faye was truly dead when Season 9 was coming out, I really don't believe that they are now or ever going to resurrect her. It doesn't mean they won't, I just think that they were a little too definitive with it to rescind on that now. A more fringe theory that I've seen, but one that I would absolutely love, is April Kelleher. If you don't know who April is, I highly recommend you looking up NGN's videos on here or do some reading. She was prominently featured in 2 of the franchise's early novels, and she has indeed interacted with Kelso. That was the last time we chronologically saw her at the end of the Broken Dawn novel and the beginning of the Division 2's timeline. How or why she would have returned to New York, why she'd be tracking Kelso down now, that's all a lot harder to guess, but it's certainly possible. As I said, however, I think that the most likely option is that this will be an all-new character. But for now, we'll keep our eyes on this Stalker and see what more we learn about them. The last topic to cover here are the closing parts of Kelso's note, indicating that she's deep into the plotline of the Hunters, Black Tusk, the very totalitarian kind of surveillance they seem to have. Now, I think this leans a lot into what we've learned with the Descent comms over the course of Year 5 Seasons 1 and 2, as well as in the Crossroads series of novels. So I'll give a secondary kind of spoiler warning if you haven't caught up with all of those. I won't get crazy with spoilers though, so don't worry too much. Basically, what I think Kelso is hinting at here is that she's caught on to the whole conspiracy with Isaac, Anna, Diamond, and the interconnectivity that all 3 AIs have. Basically, what we've learned through the comms and books is that access to one system actually grants you access to the comms and intel from each of the other systems if you know the proper techniques. Also meaning that if you try and take one of the systems offline, the others would get knocked off as well. What Kelso also references here is the key, and this is something that I think we actually know pretty definitively what it is: Bard and Schaefer. At the end of Year 5 Season 2, and we covered this in a past video, Manny debriefs with Birdie back at the castle, and in that, Birdie reveals that access to the Black Tusk headquarters is reliant on some heavy biometric readings. And Manny says verbatim, so the person is the key, after he realizes that Barden would have access to those systems. So where I think this is all ultimately leading is that by the time we reach the Brooklyn DLC, we will have devised a plan involving a hopefully awakened Barden to infiltrate and sabotage either Black Tusk HQ or whatever other high priority facility might be located in Brooklyn. That's kind of my bold prediction for now. What's interesting to keep in mind is that originally this current season and storyline that we're in was meant to lead directly into the Brooklyn DLC with the Black Diamond season in Year 5 Season 4. That of course is now changed with the DLC coming alongside Year 6 Season 3 in 2025, and so that introduces some interesting questions. Did the devs have time to alter and pivot the outcome and direction of this season once the delay was decided upon? And also, what sorts of storylines will Year 6 Seasons 1 and 2 now cover to bridge the gap until the DLC? For now, we don't know, but we might get a clearer picture by the time we reach the end of this season. But that's my overall theory, is that this key Kelso references is indeed Barden, and that in some fashion our objective is going to be assaulting Black Tusk to potentially decouple Isaac from the other 2 systems. I somewhat doubt the success of that given the context, timeline, and references thrown out in The Division Hunted, but that's getting very spoilery, so we'll skirt that for now. And that is everything to go over with this latest target in the Vanguard Manhunt, folks. The intrigue is definitely ramping up. I'm excited to see where things go for these final 2 targets and of course in the finale, and rest assured that I'll cover any crucial or otherwise interesting things that we learn. But for now, I would love to hear your thoughts and theories about where we're at in the story. What's your take on the info that we learned during the 2 Bridges portion of the investigation, and how do you think things will pan out in the story to come? Whatever you're thinking, I would love to hear it down below, and that's going to do it for me today, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. RogueGold. Out.